Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Whiskey Chicks podcast. I'm Susie,
And I'm Amy.
and here we are, not 5 years later, but barely a month later. I can't remember. I can't remember when we recorded the last one, but
Maybe a couple months.
anyway. So, those of you that listen to our podcast may have noticed that there was no intro on the beginning of this episode. And that was basically because I brought up to Amy that our intro just seemed like a little sad. Like it didn't match the energy of, I don't know, when we actually start talking. So I haven't actually decided what we're going to do, or we haven't decided, sorry, what we're going to do. But I think I want to try out just by saying what Whiskey Chicks is, right? Who are
Right.
we? Whiskey Chicks, right? Okay, so Whiskey Chicks is a term that our Nana used that didn't define anything. It was just a thingamajig. So
Correct.
instead of us writing out like this huge dialogue, she is the inspiration behind what we're doing here. And her tagline that she said to you, Amy, was "Be true to yourself." And so
Right.
we are doing just that. So we may decide to do another intro, but right now I'm just not feeling the sad.
No, that was back. That was back when we didn't know what the hell we were doing, and over time, the podcast has evolved into an energy and a vibe that original intro just doesn't go with. So
I was listening to it. And it was like, you might ask yourself, what is a Whiskey Chick? And then I told you we sounded like those people from SNL on the radio. So, and then the intro ends and we're like, I'm Susie, I'm Amy. And it just was like not matchy match. So we're going to fix it or not fix it. But anyway,
we're going to simplify it and align it to what the podcast has evolved into.
That's right. And before we tuck into today's topic, I just want to say we've had an uptick in downloads, and to the point where I called you, Amy, the other day, basically shitting myself like, oh my God. But I kind of did sound like that. But I'm proud to say I think we've been doing this a year and a half? No, 2 years. I can't remember. I'd have to look. But anyway,
I think it's been
we are now what?
Almost 3, I think. Didn't we start in October of 2023 or like 2023?
Probably.
No.
All I know is that we should have way more episodes than we do for being in existence for so long. So maybe we'll remedy that in the coming months. But because you and I both have a little more control over time in our lives now. But anyway, but I'm happy to report that we are active or been downloaded in 158 cities in 23 countries. And we just added Italy. And this one blew me away. Nepal. We had some peeps in Nepal. So that's super exciting. I think we've now hit every continent on Earth.
We're so global. We're so global.
I just,
it's crazy. It's so cool.
It is crazy that we just decided that this would be a fun thing to do, and thinking about how much we had no clue how to even get this going. Thank God for YouTube. But anywho, we are so super thrilled. And I feel like we're just kind of even though it's been 3 years, as you just said, I feel like we're just tapping the surface of possibility here with just what we're doing. And I'm excited for whatever's ahead. And we just, we always chat before we start recording, and
it's our warm up.
We laugh because it's like, what are you going to say? I'm like, just go with it.
I know. Half the time we don't even really know what we're going to say. It's like for those of you who watch Seinfeld, it's kind of like one of those Seinfeld situations where it's like, it's a lot about nothing, but it ends up being about something.
Well, it does. And as we've stated before, it's like we basically decided to start recording our phone calls. So, anyway, having blah, blah, blah said all that, today we're going to be talking about meeting people where they are at.
Yes.
Do you have a definition of that? Because I know I would screw that up. You're the Virgo, I'm the Aries, so you're the methodical thinker.
So I don't know that there's a definition of meeting someone where they're at. However, it's important that I mean, I think we do this a lot. Like we relationships, family, whatever it may be, work, you know, we come in with our own filters, our own thoughts, our own what's the word I'm looking for? We come in with our our own agenda. That's the word I'm looking for. We come in with our own agenda and we kind of transfer that onto the other person, right? And I don't care if it's, like I said, something at work or in a love relationship, in a sibling relationship, whatever. But if we're constantly coming in with our own agenda with the people we talk to, relate with, or whatever, we automatically assume that that person is going to be on board with our agenda. That's not meeting someone where they're at. Meeting someone where they're at is like if you enter a conversation with somebody, you come in without judgment. You come in ready to listen and to assess, right? It's like you want to hear the other person's side of it. So meeting someone where they're at deals a lot with empathy, assessment, being non-judgmental, bridging a gap between yourself and the other person and whatever you're discussing or communicating. So I think a lot of times we come in like it's my way or the highway, and that's not what it's about. That's not the road to effective communication. So, I think broadly, I know Susie and I, through the years, family, that sort of thing, there was a lot of feeling and really kind of judgment. It's like I'm learning now as a 58-year-old woman that, I had a lot of, I stood in my own crap and didn't really give other people a chance to didn't give people a chance. What's the word I'm looking for? They didn't really give people a chance to I wasn't listening or understanding or empathizing where they might be coming from. It was more all about me and what I needed. I know I've done that multiple times in my lifetime. And so I think it's in the process of communication, no matter who you're communicating with, it's super important to come in and just be ready to listen and not push your own agenda onto other people. And I think we see this a lot nowadays in the political environment we're in. So it's an important concept. And I know I'm kind of speaking very broadly right now, but I think as Susie and I banter about this, it'll start to kind of drill down a bit. So
drill down a bit. Well, it's funny because, you and I are bookends in the sibling lineup where you're the eldest and I'm the youngest of our parents' marriage. And I think that like you had a completely different experience in childhood than I did. But when you go through your childhood, regardless of, how you were raised, maybe you were raised. Maybe you were raised.
we were raised.
That Elmer Fudd just gets me every time. Maybe you were raised, either in a loving, supportive environment or maybe one that was more challenged or was blended or whatever. But my point is like how we're molded. It's like when we get older, we can decide if we like that about ourselves and if we want to change it. And my point to bringing that up is oftentimes like when, when I come in to have a conversation with someone and I know it's going to be challenging because I know the person, and I've tried to let them speak, and I try to listen so hard, but I'm so guilty of being like, whenever they shut up, I'm just coming in. I'm coming in hot just to tell them exactly what's on my mind. And it took me years to be like, and a lot of conversations with people where I would be like, man, I just don't understand this person. Like, they're always like X, Y, and Z, and I don't understand why they're treating me this way, and blah blah blah. And then you come in, or I've had other people say it too, but you come in, and you're like, maybe it's because of this, and you need to respect like where they're at. And so in a sense, what we're talking about when we say we're meeting people where they're at, it's more like really coming in with not having an agenda, but more like an empathetic blank slate. Because now if you're going to communicate with someone, like, you really have to have that openness about that, instead of having all that ego, or I'm right, you're right, go ahead and say what you want to say, but I'm right, blah blah blah. That happens. That's what sparks a lot of arguments. But I, being the youngest, I've always, for the majority of my life, like, I want to fight, I want to argue it to death, I want to talk it to death until you want to walk out and not see me for a while.
See, and I'm the opposite. I was the peacekeeper. I have to
defend myself. Yeah. I constantly feel the need to like defend myself. I don't do that so much anymore. I catch snippets of it. And I also tend to feel like if someone, well, that's how I receive it, rejects me or says something like, no, I don't really want to spend, or I don't want to hang out, or I'm busy or whatever, I'm like, oh, well, I'm hurt. I don't do that anymore. I'm like, well, that's not what they want. So cool.
Yeah, I think it's, it's a part of emotional maturity, right? You being able just to not bring ego, just understand you want to be true to yourself, but understand what's true for you may not be true for the other person. You bring in experiences and filters and whatnot, and so do they. So especially like, no matter how much you want to change somebody, you can't do it for them. And if you're not meeting someone where they're at, then in essence, what you're trying to do is you're trying to change them, rather than just kind of stand in your own truth, be emotionally mature, listen, accept, and have a conversation without any agenda or judgment. And it's amazing how when you do that, how the other person might respond and how the conversation might go. Rather than it going south, maybe you can actually engage in an equitable conversation and get somewhere, especially if something's trying to be resolved or whatever. But, the more objective you can be, the better, empathetic and objective. And even if the other person isn't going to bring themselves to where you're at and kind of match that emotional maturity, you can still kind of guide it and stand in it, right? And just decide, is this really worth my energy? I mean, because I know there are some instances where you just feel like I'm not getting anywhere, but if you meet someone where they're at, maybe there's a compromise in there somewhere, and maybe with thinking with emotional maturity and non-judgmental and kind of assessing the situation, you can come to a compromise. You can help to guide that.
I really think that what we're talking about right now is important and significant at this juncture in the world, because we are so disconnected as a human race now, and staring at phones and having things in our ears, and the simple act of engaging with other people, I feel like has taken a back seat. And I think in that, we're having a hard time when we do actually have to talk to people to have this engaging, productive conversation, which is, I think, the whole point to what we're talking about. It's about looking another person in the eye, reading or feeling, if you're that empathetic. I think most of us are pretty empathetic, but gauging the energy, like, coming in with an open mind, like have your ideas and your opinions and your passions, but remember that other person has them too. And there should be a space there for that to be exchanged where it feels safe. That's communication.
Exactly. So I guess the question becomes, how can we understand another person when instead of listening deeply, we rush to fix the person according to our own agenda? That doesn't get us anywhere. People don't want to be fixed or saved. That puts them actually on the defense. They want to be seen, they want to be heard. They want their truth acknowledged and honored as well. So um, when the conversation between two people, no matter what your relationship is, whether it's parent to child or parent to adult child or spouses or whatever it might be, taking this approach, all of a sudden both people feel respected from where they're coming from, because you set down the ego and just honor the fact that they're different than you. They don't want to be fixed. Accept them, meet them where they're at.
I always in the I used to be in another life, I was a manager for Starbucks back in the 90s. And when I was going through management training, and this has resonated with me, and I still do it to this day, regardless of whether or not it's a work environment or simply listening to someone else, I'm in a conversation with someone. But when I respond to something, it sounds corny, but it actually, for me, it works, because my hamster in the wheel, oh man, that bitch is out of control sometimes. But
I know.
I always, oh, shut up. I always think to someone, if there's something in my response that is going to have something to do with, like, maybe something I feel needs improvement or whatever. Anyway, my point is, I always bring up a strength or two or three before an opportunity. So you're not just coming at that person and saying, it's like, I don't know. It could be something as silly as, like, why don't you ever put the toilet seat down? It makes batshit crazy when you don't put the toilet seat down. But instead of, just coming at it from like say something positive before you say like that.
I appreciate that you flush.
Yeah.
Balanced feedback, right?
I appreciate that the paper's over and not under.
Oh, don't even go there. Toilet paper should be over.
But don't you know that you're letting all the good feng shui out of the house when you leave the seat up?
All the good feng shui is going down the toilet because the seat's up.
You're flushing the feng shui right down the crapper.
Feng shui.
But that was a bad example, but it ended up being funny. But it was always just like, in a conversation where there has to be, like, maybe something that you don't want to talk about. I think it's basically saying, like, something positive before you touch on what might be a little more sensitive, but not rushing at someone like, I need to talk to you about something. And then it's just like that is what I experienced a lot growing up in different locations of my life. We'll just say that to be polite. But that almost makes me like cower, like physically cower, when someone is like, we need to talk, or something like that.
Right.
Like, don't make that your opening freaking line.
I know. That's like the worst.
Because now I'm really going to want to talk.
You automatically go on the defense. You have a little panic attack, like, oh crap, what did I do wrong? and but you're absolutely right. It's like feedback, or it should be balanced. If you're coming in and you're trying to you want to correct a behavior or talk to someone about something, um, it's always good to make sure that it's balanced. Back to your toilet seat example, it's like, don't just dive right in and say, will you stop leaving the toilet seat up? I mean, maybe there's a reason they leave the toilet seat up. I don't know. But, it's just like, I appreciate so much that you always flush. The toilet paper's over. Can I ask one more thing? Can we lower the toilet seat? But it's true. It's like, emphasize what's going right too. Don't always attack what's going wrong. Seek to understand, ask questions, because you might get some answers that surprise you, that kind of change your way of thinking about the situation. So seek to understand the other person and where they're coming from. That's a part of meeting someone where they're at. And whether or not they're able, emotionally mature enough, if you will, to reciprocate that is another story. But certainly you can bring that energy for sure, and hopefully they'll follow suit just because you started it.
It's true. And that's, again, like, I don't know why I'm going to use this as an example, but I think you're going to understand this. Like, when we just opened this podcast to talk about meeting people where we're at, you took forever. You were like, I'm watching the timer and I'm like, is she going to say anything? You're just taking your sweet time. Just
me
saying what yes, you took like almost 3 minutes, like opening your idea. And I was trying not to laugh because you were so in it, but that was me meeting you where you're at, where I'm just here like, we can freaking get on with it. But I didn't do that because I was meeting you where you were at. I'm like, she's gonna get there. I know she's gonna get there.
Well, Mercury is retrograde. Mercury,
can't even say it.
Elmer Fudd's here still. Mercury is in retrograde.
Elmer Fudd's our first guest.
we're channeling our inner Elmer Fudd today. But I always have a hard time forming thoughts when Mercury is retrograde. Oh my God.
Don't blame Mercury.
I'm going to, because it's true. It's like, it always happens. But anyway.
But I just thought that was funny. I was like, Amy's now doing the whole point of this podcast right now.
That's you. Well, that's what we get when we don't really plan anything. So anyway.
Oh, I like where this is going.
Well, let's model what you're not supposed to do.
Oh man, but recently, I think my biggest, a huge example of like, meeting people where they're at is I won't use any specifics or anything, but you'll know what I'm talking about. But I was supposed to hang out with someone that I'm close with, and what I thought was going to be more time spent together ended up being like a fraction of that. And I really tried not to take it personally, and I wasn't feeling like I need to ask the whys for that. And you were the one that was like, well, maybe this is just where they're at right now, and this is all they have to give, and you just need to meet them where they're at. And I'm like, ding, ding. And so, I'll probably reference this in every podcast I can, but we've used enough words from the 4 agreements. You talked about making assumptions, and I just talked about taking things personally. So I'm just going to say this again. If you haven't read that book, you should, The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, because it is the foundation for almost everything we talk about here. And it really puts you in a mindset of just living your life, like being able to take a lot of stress off yourself by not I'll be blunt, just letting shit get to you.
Yeah.
And just being free of that. Like, I go throughout my day just like constantly being rejected, or how people would think I was being rejected, and I'm not. I'm being redirected. I'm not being rejected. I'm being redirected. And it's something as simple as reframing your mind like that. It just takes a whole load off of you. And it's the same thing with meeting people where they're at, like with just not coming in with that agenda and that ego and that whatever when you're going to engage with someone. It takes so much off of you and you relax.
Exactly. It's so much less toxic. I mean, and if the other person isn't meeting you where you're at, then, you know, don't engage. It's just be comfortable where you are in your truth, and yeah, just let it be.
I mean, it's true to say that, when the relationships we have with people, I think it would be really boring if they were exactly how I want. I want someone to be exactly how they want to be. And part of being in a relationship, whether it be friend, family, partnership of romantic or business or otherwise, is that these people help us learn about ourselves as well.
Exactly. And we all bring in our own triggers. We all bring in our own traumas, and nobody's is worse, bigger, than anybody else's, because my trauma is just as important to me as your trauma is as important to you. So it's even though in my mind it may not be that big of a deal, it doesn't matter because it is a big deal to you, right? And so we all come in with these things, and the more we can work to just seek to understand, the better our communication will be and the better our relationships will be.
Totally. And I think that's really something with everything. And by everything, I mean everything that is going on in the world right now. We all really could help by just doing the smallest and simplest of things, like meeting people where they're at, having understanding, compassion, empathy. I'm not saying don't have your anger or your passion or your grief. Those are all real feelings and they need to run their course, but don't let that be what drives you through your day, because you're not here to suffer.
No.
You're here to have, your soul is here to have an experience and a journey. And I've also learned that those triggers that I feel welling up, the things that I healed that I don't want to be, those are things I brought from my past. That's not actually who I am. That's who I was. That's not who I am. Right. I'm here to leave that all behind. And you can wake up every day and decide to be this person, or, look at the hour mark. It's 2:00. I'm changing. I mean, you can do this to yourself all day long. That's the amazing thing. It's your choice how you want to navigate your way through the world.
Exactly.
And with everything going on, like random acts of kindness, a smile, letting someone go in the door before you, putting your shopping cart back, thinking of that person that has to do a cart run in the rain. I mean, just like letting someone go in line in front of you, anything, opening a door for someone. I mean, even that person where it's like you buy the coffee for the person behind you, even though you have no idea what they're getting. Just like, I don't know, just like the smallest of things where you're not thinking of yourself first. That's what's going to change the world. One little thing that's like that rock being thrown in the lake and just that ripple effect. It's just that one little boop.
Yeah.
I mean,
we did do an episode on the shopping cart thing. So if you're interested, go back and listen to it.
That was the first one, grocery store.
That was the first one?
That was the first one, grocery store mindfulness.
That's right.
But I don't know why, but the song that's in my head right now is just what makes that little ant move a rubber tree plant.
In come Laverne and Shirley. Oh my God.
Got high hopes. That's what I think we should end it there, because my singing is going to kill our listeners. No.
Oh no, my singing would kill. At least you can carry a tune. I can't. I won't even bother. making others suffer. So
you make up for it in other areas.
That's true. So just, I mean, I know usually on our Whiskey Chick, on our podcast at the very end, we assign homework or whatever. I'm not going to necessarily do that, but I am going to just kind of sum it up. I'm going to make some just kind of, because I know we were a little all over the place with this, but I think the information was good. But let's just kind of sum it up. So if you take anything away from this podcast, in order to meet somebody where they're at, make sure that you listen. Be aware of your own preconceived ideas and the way things should be in your mind. Just be aware of that, like what you're coming in with. Be aware of your own crap and what you're bringing to the table and to the conversation. Just have awareness around that. Don't judge the other person. Respond, don't react. And we've said that over and over again through multiple episodes. So important to respond and not react. Seek to understand the other person by asking open-ended questions. Let them talk so that you can listen to understand. Accept the other's feelings. You have your feelings, they have theirs. Respect their journey. It's theirs and not yours. You have your own journey. So I'd like to leave it there with those little nuggets and practice meeting people where they're at.
I love it. We did actually do an entire podcast episode on responding and not reacting.
We did.
We did. So, I don't remember what number it is.
I love how we just tie it all together.
We do. We're probably going to repeat ourselves too, but you know what? It's okay because this is all stuff we should be not forgetting.
Well, they say it takes, you have to hear it at least 7 times before it sinks in. So anyway.
Oh God, that's a lot.
I know.
Anyway, we want to thank you all for being with us on this journey. We're very, very happy that you're here. And yes, and we're on Instagram. So if you look up Whiskey Chicks on Instagram, give us a like and a follow. We'd love to have you. And anyway, until next time, we know what old Nana would say.
Be true to yourself.